Hello, and welcome to Community Unitarian Universalist Church's online worship service. Our speaker today, Legault, will explore ancient Stoic philosophy and how it might help us survive the chaos and uncertainty of our current times. Legault works as a hospital chaplain in Austin and looks forward to her September 18th, 2021 ordination as a UU minister at First Unitarian Universalist Church at Austin. She practiced law in the areas of civil defense litigation and appeals for 15 years before heeding her call to be a different kind of counselor. Lee earned her Master of Divinity and Master of Social Work degrees in May 2020. Thank you for joining our community.
Our chalice lighting today comes from Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius. The elements move upwards, downwards, in all directions. The motion of virtue is different, deeper. It moves at a steady pace, on a road hard to discern, and always forward.
As Unitarian Universalists, we come together from a variety of different backgrounds with many different beliefs. What binds us together is purpose and our shared covenant. Please join me in saying it together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another.
Listen as your day unfolds. Challenge what the future holds. Try and keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. Stand up and be counted. Don't be ashamed to cry. Gotta be bad. Gotta be bold. Gotta be wiser. Gotta be hard. Gotta be tough. Gotta be stronger. Gotta be cool. Gotta be calm. Gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. Hear what your mother said. Read the books your father read. Try to solve the puzzles in your own sweet time. Some may have more cash than you. Others take a different route. My, oh my. Hey. Gotta be bad, gotta be bold, gotta be wiser. Gotta be hard, gotta be tough, gotta be stronger. Gotta be cool, gotta be calm, gotta stay together. All I know, love will find a way. Time has no question, it goes on without you. Leaving you behind if you can't take the pace. You can't stop it if you try to. This time it's danger staring you in the face. Remember, you gotta be bad, gotta be bold, gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, gotta be tough, gotta be stronger. Gotta be cool, gotta be calm, gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. Listen as your day unfolds. Challenge what the future holds. Try and keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. Stand up and be counted. Don't be ashamed to cry. You gotta be bad, gotta be bold, gotta be wiser. Gotta be hard, gotta be tough, gotta be stronger. Gotta be cool, gotta be calm, gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. All I know, love will save the day. All I know, love will save the day.
Invictus by William Ernest Henley. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade. And yet, the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
This is what we do with our faith. Live in this world knowing that we will lose each other, loving despite the hard bargain it demands of us, doing what we can so that truth may be safely lived, measuring our faith by the difference we have made, and building up faith communities to continue after we are gone. At this time, I invite you to give to Community UU Church to support our work together, including these online services. You can give online. Just go to our website, uuplano.org, and click on the blue Donate Now button. Thank you. We appreciate your gifts, including the gift of your time to participate in this service.
Stoic Spiritual Survival Sermon. 3, 2, 1. Some nights ago, as I was getting ready for bed, I broke 2 of my personal rules for spiritual health. Rules I've broken too many times these past few months. 1, I consumed news after 4 p.m. And 2, I consumed news on a portable electronic device. In doing so, I encountered first a story about a boy from Mongolia. Sad story. He had died from the bubonic plague after eating an infected marmot. Once that caught my attention, I jumped to another story about an infected squirrel in Colorado who had tested positive for the plague. And then another story about the current global statistics on death and disability worldwide from the bubonic plague. And finally, a very helpful story, a non-tragic story about what the heck a marmot is. I think what I was doing is what they're calling doom scrolling, and it prevented me from doing the next right thing for my soul, which was getting a good night's sleep to replenish my seemingly ever draining during this pandemic wells of love, hope, and compassion. 3 things that are hard to keep full in my heart during the pandemic and the election season. That night, as I was going to sleep, I found myself muttering, I've got to get back to Stoicism. And I said it about the same way in January when I say, I've got to get back to the gym. Stoicism is an ancient philosophy that offers timeless tools for cultivating our will by turning obstacles into virtues. Virtues like compassion, courage, patience, and resilience. Stoicism started around 300 BC in Greece, and for about 300 years, Stoicism dominated the philosophical scene of the Roman Empire, thanks to the teachings of several notable Stoic teachers like Seneca, Epictetus, and the Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Stoicism is about using mindful vigilance of thoughts to maximize empowered agency of action. Obstacles, well, they change with the time and they vary from individual to individual, but the general response of an undisciplined mind to adversity remains the same across all times. Fear, helplessness, frustration, anger, and confusion. The energy we spend on these emotions weakens us, depletes us, and eventually burns us out. By contrast, Stoicism urges cultivation of virtues that empower us: strength, service, humility, flexibility. Stoics were warriors of the mind, using hardships, insults, problems, pain, anything and everything that crossed their path as fuel for the inner fire of their will. The friction of struggle serves Stoics as a catalyst for their chemical reaction of character, propelling them to new and higher levels of functioning and empowerment. Through training and practice, they honed what they called the Inner Citadel, which was a kind of internal stronghold that they say each of us has to build over the course of our lifetime to house our unbreakable will and character. Imagine the Inner Citadel as a kind of soul fortress that protects your will and character, and that no amount of external adversity can ever mar. There's 3 steps to building the inner citadel. First, to strengthen our soul fortress, we focus only on what is under our control. What Stoics called externals are not within our control. Now, externals are a really big bucket in the Stoic mind. All actions of other people are externals. What happens to you is an external. How people react to what you do is an external. Big bucket. What we can control, what Stoics called internals, fits into a considerably smaller container. Our own words, our own thoughts, and our own actions. The second step in building the inner citadel is to focus on right action. And for the Stoics, right action is choosing the most empowered action available right now. Flex your agency wherever possible, no matter how small a flex it may be. When faced with a seemingly impossible boulder of adversity, break it down into pebbles of discrete possibility. What task lies before us that we can accomplish? Choose to do that one small thing. Do it well, and then move on to the next discrete pebble of possibility. Third, accept what comes. Stoics call it the art of acquiescence, and I think it's by far the hardest step in building the inner citadel. We don't control outcome. That is an external. We only control our own internal process. Stoics believe that once we've used our will, agency, and our character to the very best of our ability, tranquility and joy are sure to follow. But that's a tall order to accomplish that. The art of acquiescence, importantly, does not mean giving up going forward. Only that in that individual moment, on that particular battlefield, that we find a spot of peace, knowing that regardless of external events, we built our inner citadel. And then in the next moment, turn back to the work and repeat the process. As golfers might say, play it where it lies. When a situation arises that is truly, unchangeably awful, the Stoics show us how to transform it in the fire of the inner citadel. Transform it into a learning experience. Transform it into an opportunity to grow our empathy. Transform it into a chance to comfort others. The late Admiral James Stockdale provides a remarkable contemporary example of the Stoic inner citadel. You may remember Admiral Stockdale from his time in 1992 as Ross Perot's vice presidential running mate. Whatever your feelings about his politics, we can see the awesome practical power of Stoicism in Admiral Stockdale's story of his 7 years as a prisoner of war in Vietnam. In his essay, Courage Under Fire, Testing Epictetus's Doctrines in a Laboratory of Human Behavior, Stockdale tells us that he came to philosophy at middle age when the Navy sent him to graduate school at Stanford. Stoicism spoke to Stockdale at Stanford, particularly the compilation of Epictetus's teachings called the Enchiridion. Enchiridion means ready at hand, and so we would probably translate it nowadays into the Stoic handbook. But the Stoics meant it in the sense of a tool or a weapon, available to be used ready in your hand in any situation. Stockdale's Stoic hero, Epictetus, was born as an enslaved person and spent years working in the palace of the infamous Roman Emperor Nero, before Epictetus became a free person and a Stoic teacher. Stockdale says he particularly admired Epictetus because Epictetus gleaned wisdom rather than bitterness from his early first-hand exposure to extreme cruelty and first-hand observations of abuse of power and self-indulgent debauchery. I bet so, in Emperor Nero's court. I bet he saw plenty of self-indulgent debauchery. In 1965, 3 years after leaving Stanford, James Stockdale was shot down over northern Vietnam, and he parachuted away from the wreckage of his airplane, floating down into enemy territory. Stockdale vividly recalls, "After ejection, I had about 30 seconds to make my last statement to myself in freedom before I landed in the main street of a little village right ahead. And so help me, I whispered to myself, 5 years down there, at least. I'm leaving the world of technology and entering the world of Epictetus." Admiral Stockdale's essay also tells us that when he crashed, he understood he would be the highest-ranking U.S. military officer in the prison, that the enemy would know this and would single him out for extra copious torture and reprogramming, and that his single goal was to give his fellow prisoners the best leadership he could muster as long as he survived. His initial assessment proved quite accurate. As soon as he hit the ground, he was badly beaten and left with an injured leg that never healed properly. Stockdale says he would later take comfort in the fact that Epictetus had a disability, and that Epictetus wrote in the Enchiridion, "Lameness is an impediment to the leg, but not to the will." Before he even gets to his experience at the prison, Stockdale has offered a powerful articulation of the Stoic process of building the inner citadel. He's acquiesced to the external consequence over which he has no control, that he's going to be a prisoner, probably for 5 years, which was his personal opinion of how much longer the war would last. And he's broken down the overwhelming obstacle of imminent imprisonment into small parts over which he can exercise empowered agency and action. And he has set a goal for his internal condition that's worthy of his inner citadel. He vows to use his years of imprisonment to help other prisoners. Once he arrives at the prison, which he describes as a strange cross between a psychiatric facility and a reform school, Admiral Stockdale sees that the most effective torture technique that the enemy has is the fear and anxiety, guilt and helplessness that they're able to make the prisoners feel. Because the captured soldiers feel these emotions about the possibility of what information they might give up under duress. Stockdale says, "It was there that I learned what Stoic harm meant." Epictetus said, "Look not for any greater harm than this, destroying the trustworthy, self-respecting, well-behaved person within you." Admiral Stockdale seems frustrated in his essay that other people do not immediately grasp the gravity of Stoic harm and insist on asking him when he lectures about lesser issues like exactly what types of physical torture he endured and what the food was like in the prison. He wrote that he got the question about what the food was like all the time. It drove him crazy. To help alleviate the psychological and spiritual harm suffered by his 400 fellow soldiers in the camp, Stockdale established a system of coded communications between the prisoners, and he set up a chain of command. Most importantly, he gave them orders. Orders like unity over self, which translated practically into avoiding accepting favorable treatment at the expense of one's fellow soldiers. His system of shadow orders allowed the soldiers to minimize their anxiety and guilt and maximize their empowered agency. Stockdale's orders normalized that they would probably all give up some information under torture, but allowed the soldiers to take action to build their inner citadels by exercising their discretion to follow the unity over self directive as best they could, given their external circumstances. That small amount of agency brought the soldiers a measure of peace and freedom inside the prison. Admiral Stockdale writes poignantly of a note left for him by a fellow soldier when Stockdale returned from a long bout of solitary confinement. He spent about 4 years in solitary confinement, all told. Back in my cell, after the guard locked the door, I sat on my toilet bucket where I could stealthily jettison the note if the peephole cover should move, and unfolded Hatcher's sheet of low-grade paper toweling on which, with a rat dropping, he had printed, without comment or signature, the last verse of Ernest Henley's poem Invictus. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Sometimes the triumph of a Stoic inner citadel over adversity bears little resemblance to traditional victory. Sometimes it manifests instead as spiritual survival. You cannot see spiritual survival on the outside, not externally, but the presence of a person whose inner citadel is strong enough for spiritual survival illumines for countless others the internal worth and dignity of every person, regardless of external circumstance. As we walk in our Unitarian Universalist faith through this time of adversity, there will be opportunities to use the wisdom of the Stoic sages, to break down challenges so that their hugeness does not paralyze us, to exercise our empowerment muscles by tackling actions within our control, to preserve energy by wasting as little as possible on unproductive reactions to externals, and to transform obstacles into opportunities to build compassion and resilience. Amen, and blessed be.
Some hands have held the world together. Some hands have fought in wars forever. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? Some hands have blessed 1,000,000 people. Some hands help free the world from evil. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? The world could use a hero of the humankind. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? Some hands stay for life from dying. Some hands comfort a baby crying. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I shall I do with these hands of mine? I want to sing it from my heart. I want to hear it in the wind till it blows around the world and comes back again. And all that we can ask is for hours to be free, to use them when we want, for whatever the need. Some hands, they give voice to a nation. Some hands rolled, oh, the times they are changing. What shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? The world could use a hero. Tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? Tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine?
Our chalice extinguishing is from Stoic philosopher and Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. If you do the job in a principled way, with diligence, energy, and patience, if you keep yourself free of distractions and keep the spirit inside you undamaged, as if you might have to give it back at any moment, then your life will be happy. No one can prevent that. May our inner citadels shine brightly as beacons that ignite spiritual survival in all who see them. Peace be with you.